You know, one of y'all's favorite things to do in the comment section here on LouTube, in the Uncle Lou comment section, is to tell me I don't know anything about football. So I've decided to do y'all a favor and prove you right. I'm getting ready to start my official prediction videos for the 2022 season. I'm going to start them at the beginning of June, and I've already started to do some work on that. I have to take some notes and started to research some things. And normally I make a video kind of like this at the end of January or beginning of February, but I never did it this year. I'm going to go back and look at some of the team-by-team predictions that I did last offseason and let you guys laugh at me in the comment section. When I do these prediction videos, I put the schedule up on the screen, and I don't, not only do I predict the overall record, I try to predict who the losses will be to, and that's a lot harder. You know, it's one thing to say, well, this team's going to go 8-4, but to pinpoint the exact 4 losses, that becomes a lot harder to do. But that's what I try to do in my my team-by-team prediction videos that I do starting every June. I'm almost to 50,000 subscribers too. I think I'm like 15 away at the time I'm recording this. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. Trying to get to 50K. I'm going to do a 24-hour stream when I hit 50K. Not like the minute I hit it, but once I hit 50K, I'm going to schedule a time when I can do one. It'll be on a weekend. It won't be this weekend. I'm going to be out of town, but maybe next weekend. But I'll keep you informed on that. But anyway, here we go. Get ready to laugh at Uncle Lou. Now, every year when I do these, there are some that I get exactly right. I get the record right, and I nail the teams that I predicted them to lose to. There are some that I get kind of right. Maybe I get the record right, but one of the losses is off. They lose to a team I thought they'd beat, and they beat a team I thought they'd lose to. In most cases, though, I end up being a game or two off, and then there's some where, obviously, I'm way off. Now, on some of those, it's pretty obvious when you have teams that, you know, like your North Carolinas, your Iowa States, and your Clemsons from last year. Everybody had them in the top 10, and they were huge disappointments. All of those teams lost way more games than anybody thought they were going to lose. But anyway, we'll get to it here. I'm going to start with Texas A&M because this one's kind of funny. I predicted Texas A&M to go 11-1 last year. 11-1. They went 8-4. So I wasn't even close. I wasn't even close. I had them losing to LSU. That's right. Not Bama. LSU. They did lose to LSU. The problem is they also lost to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. So I had them at 11-1. They went 8-4. I got the loss right, but they lost 3 additional games. And famously, kind of, if you were around here last offseason, I got the Alabama game right. They did beat Alabama. Alabama last year, what did I predict their record to be? 11-1. They went 11-1. I had them losing on the road to Texas A&M. They lost on the road to Texas A&M. So Alabama, I got exactly right. Georgia. I had Georgia at 12-0. Georgia went 12-0. You say, well, you're a Georgia fan. You pick them 12-0 every year. No, I don't. Most years, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. I think I've picked them 11-1 every single year. And I've been right most years. And I was right again this year. 12-0. I nailed it on Georgia. Clemson was worse than people thought. I had Clemson at 11-1. Their only loss coming to Georgia. They did lose to Georgia week 1. But they lost 2 more games. They lost to Pitt and NC State. Both of which ended up being pretty good teams. You know, I mean, Pitt played in the ACC title game. NC State was a pretty good team. So I was 2 games off on Clemson. I had them 11-1 with a loss to Georgia. They went 9-3 with the losses to Georgia, Pitt, and NC State. What about South Carolina? South Carolina overperformed last year based off of preseason expectations. Not just mine, but a lot of people. Some people had South Carolina going like 3-7 or 3-9. I had South Carolina going 4-8. They actually went 6-6. When I do these predictions, I just do regular season. I don't do bowl predictions because how can you predict the outcome of a game when you don't know the opponent? So I just do regular season predictions. So I had the Shamecocks at 4-8. They actually went 6-6. So 2 games better than I thought they would do. I had them losing to Georgia. They did. I had them losing to Kentucky. They did. I had them losing to Tennessee. They did. I had them losing to Texas A&M. They did. I had them losing to Florida. They did not. They beat Florida in the last month of the season after Florida had given up. I had them losing to Missouri. They did lose to Missouri. I had them losing to Clemson. They did lose to Clemson. The other game they lost to, where I was wrong, where I had them losing, I had them losing and they won, was Auburn, another team that was extremely disappointing last year, especially the second half of the season. Auburn and Florida both pretty much gave up on their seasons in the second half. So I thought South Carolina would lose to Auburn. They beat them. I thought South Carolina would lose to Florida, and they beat them. Other than that, I nailed it. I had them at 4-8. They went 6-6. I was 2 games off. Penn State, another team, just completely fell off the map at the end of the season. No one saw it coming. Their quarterback got hurt, and they were just a totally different team the second half of the season than they were the first half of the season, but I was way off on Penn State. Actually, I ended up not being way off. I had them at 8-4. They ended up 7-5. So, one game worse than I thought they would do. I had them losing to Wisconsin. They did. I had them losing to Iowa. They did. I had them losing to Ohio State. They did. So, I was 3 for 3 there. But I had them losing to Maryland. They did not. They beat Maryland. And then they ended up losing to Illinois and Michigan, who I had them beating. So I was kind of wrong on both ends. They lost to some teams I thought they would beat. They beat some teams I thought they would lose to. They finished 7-5. I had them at 8-4. Ended up being 1 game off. Tennessee. I just hate Tennessee. Well, I had Tennessee at 6-6 last year when just about everybody else had them at 4-8. I had Tennessee at 6-6. They did 1 game better, 7-5. I had Tennessee losing to Pitt. They did. I had them losing to Florida. They did. I had them losing to Mizzou. They did not. They beat Mizzou. That was the 1 game I missed. I had them losing to Ole Miss, losing to Bama, and losing to Georgia, and they did. So I had them losing 5 games. They lost 4 of the 5 games. I had them losing 6 games. They lost 5 of those 6 games that I predicted they would lose. The one they ended up winning was Mizzou. I had them at 6-6. They went 7-5. Miami, boy. There's probably more Miami fans that tell me I hate Miami, honestly, than any other fan base. I get comments like that from every fan base. Every fan base tells me, oh, you just hate Miami. You just hate Oklahoma. Why would I hate Oklahoma? You just hate Penn State. You just hate Ohio State. You just hate, well, blah, 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 blah. But I get the most of those comments probably from Miami fans. I don't really know why. I predicted Miami to go 10-2 last season. Boy, was I wrong. They went 7-5. I was 3 games off there. I had them losing to Bama. They did. I had them losing to North Carolina. They did. But those were the only 2 games I had them losing. Problem is, they also lost early in the year to Michigan State. And then they lost to Florida State and Virginia. And those 2 are unacceptable losses. Now, clearly, Michigan State ended up being a really good team. And not a lot of people knew that. That was a home game for Miami. I think a lot of people were picking Miami in that game. Didn't work out. Michigan State with Kenneth Walker, of course, ended up being a top 10 team most of the year. They went down to Miami and beat them. Looking back on it, that's understandable, that loss. These losses to Florida State and Virginia, though, unacceptable. Miami should have won those games. They should have won those games and been 9-3. And if they would have done that, maybe they still have Manny Diaz instead of Mario Cristobal, so maybe a blessing in disguise. I don't know. But I had Miami at 10-2. I was way off. They went 7-5. What about Texas? Another team. This guy just hates Texas. Well, I had them at 8-4 last year, and it turns out that was a little bit too optimistic. So maybe I just love Texas for no reason. I had them at 8-4. They went 5-7. So another one where I was 3 games off. Not good. I had them losing to TCU, actually, and I don't think they did. I had them losing to Oklahoma, they did. Losing to Iowa State, they did. And losing to West Virginia, they did. So those were the 4 teams I thought they would lose to. TCU, Oklahoma, Iowa State, and West Virginia. They lost 3 of those 4, beating TCU. They also lost 4 games that I thought they would win. They lost to Arkansas, so I was wrong there. They lost to Oklahoma State and Baylor, who ended up being the 2 best teams in the Big 12. And they lost to, Kansas. They lost to friggin' Kansas. Terrible year for Texas, finishing up at 5-7, and this is an important season for Texas. And, you know, here we are again. I've been hyping Texas up all offseason. I guess I'm setting myself up for failure and disappointment again when I get ready to do this Texas prediction video for this coming season. But, man, they just have too much talent to keep losing even 4, never mind 7 games a season. So we'll see where I land on Texas when I start the predictions next month. But I've been pretty high on them so far in the offseason. But I swung and missed last year. I had them at 8-4. They went 5-7. What about Nebraska? They famously went 3-9 last year, right? Bunch of close losses. Scott Frost barely held on to his job. Adrian Martinez has packed his bags and moved on. And they've brought Casey Thompson in to play quarterback this year from Texas. I predicted Nebraska to go 5-7. They went 3-9. So another one where I was 2 games off. I had them losing to Oklahoma. They did. Michigan State. They did. Michigan. They did. Minnesota. They did. And Ohio State. They did. So they lost. Oh, and I had them losing to Wisconsin and Iowa. So I had them losing those 7 games. They did lose those 7 games. But then they also lost to Illinois, who I had them beating. And they lost to Purdue, who I also had them beating. So I got all the losses right. I just was 2 losses short. I had them 5-7. They went 3-9. And the last one, and there's a bunch more. If you want to look up what I thought your team was going to do, and I didn't talk about it today, I'm fixing to do Ohio State now, but that's the last one I wrote down. I did a whole bunch more. There's a playlist, 2021 predictions, on my channel. You can find your team on there and laugh at me about how wrong I was on there. I had Ohio State at 12-0. I was a believer in C.J. Stroud before the season ever started. And then, of course, they come out early in the season and take the home loss to Oregon. And then at the end of the season, they took a beating to Michigan. So they ended up 10-2. I had them at 12-0, so I was way off. Ohio State, another team. This guy just hates Ohio State. Well, I hate them so much I had them going 12-0 last year. But I was wrong. They went 10-2, losing to a terrible Oregon team early in the year and then getting blown out by their big brother, Michigan, to end the year. Didn't even win their division. So disappointing year for Ohio State, and Uncle Lou was wrong. I had them at 12-0. They went 10-2. Anyway, there you go. Feel free to laugh at me in the comments down below. This guy doesn't know anything about football, which is not really a surprise when you consider the fact I've never even seen a game.